I don't know, guys. You ever watch a really good action movie? Like, let's just use Star Wars, for instance, because that's the big one that just came out. And, like, you're sitting there and you're watching Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and it's, in my opinion, it was a really good movie. But, you waited for something for so long, and then as you're watching it, you're just enjoying yourself. But then as you get to the climax there, you start to realize, like, even though this is the climax and shit's going everywhere and it's fucking awesome, at the same time you realize this movie's going to end soon. And then, you know, what do you do after that? You know, you waited for something for so long. I'm getting that impression with Bleach this past year, where it's, you know, I've had my complaints. Don't worry about that. You know, you'll probably have many more in the future. But I really sincerely think by this time next year, either Bleach is going to be maybe not completely over, but it's going to be, you know, like at the final battle stage of the manga. You know, either this time next year or like very early 2017. You know, or possibly it could even be over. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I wasn't even... Well, I mean, I'll be here next year to do this, because we still got some stuff left to talk about, but... I don't know, guys. We're getting near the end. Alright, well... Anyway, in case you're new to the channel, this is an annual video that I do. This will be the top 10 best Bleach moments of 2015. We're going to be looking at all the stuff that happened between chapter 612 all the way up to chapter 657, which happened last week, or actually earlier this week, is the last chapter of this year. Now, the criteria for this list is really just moments that stuck out well to me. It doesn't have anything to do with, like, the top 10 best fights, or top 10 most, you know, character revelations, or most emotional scenes. It's just stuff that stood out to me personally, so feel free to have your own opinion. Let me know below what your top 10 or top 5 or whatever favorite moments are in the series this year. Alright, well, let's get right into it. Here we go. Number 10. Shunsui Kyoraku's Bankai from chapter 647. Alright, I know, a lot of people are still, you know, gonna be pissed off at me for even putting it this low on the list. Hey, I was debating whether or not I should even have it on here, okay? It should have been way higher up on the list. I really should have, but I'm not feeling it here, guys. And I've said this before in my reviews, but just to, like, break it down for you really simply, Shunsui's Bankai has always been something that, even before it was hinted at in the fake Karakura Town arc, you know, when Uketake was like, you know, you better not use it when other people are around, even before that, we knew Shunsui was one of the strongest captains in the Soul Society. You know, you had Yamamoto, you had Unohana, who was, like, kind of hiding her, but you knew she was badass, but she was, like, hiding it. Yamamoto was outwardly badass. And Shunsui also, kind of this guy that doesn't really, he's really super strong, but he just kind of hides it under that kind of mystique he puts forth, you know, but he was able to take out Chad without any effort whatsoever, without even releasing his Zanpakuto, and he's one of the oldest captains, so we knew he was a badass. And then we get his Bankai, which I just feel... I feel like we deserved more than what we got. I mean, look at Yamamoto. When Yamamoto went Bankai, holy shit, that delivered. I mean, he died. It was kind of annoying. But, you know, that delivered on all the things we expected about Yamas Bankai. You know, it was broken up into 4 different sections. You had a blade that could incinerate anything on contact. You had flames erupting to him, from him that, you know, had heat hotter than the sun. You had him, like, summoning an entire army of zombie skeletons from the ground. And then the final technique, which is also just kind of like a big slice that incinerates anything, just a lot bigger than the first slice. But, you know, it was still, like, we got what we, you know, were waiting for this whole time. But imagine if Yama's Bankai was only, like, the first stage. Like, it's a sword that cuts anything and just incinerates anything. I mean, yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, pretty OP. But considering we built up so much that this is the head captain, I would be just like, really? That's all it is? That's what I felt with Shunsui's. And I've gone into detail about how... You know, it reminded me so much of Rose's Bankai, and it's not the exact same thing, but we saw a Bankai that acted like this before, that was broken up into, like, here's Act 1, here's Act 2, here's Act 3. You know, it was the same basic structure with Rose, and when I saw Shunsui's Bankai, when he was explaining it, I'm like, I've already seen this before. I've already seen this kind of Bankai before. Now, I got my hopes up a little bit when he was doing the different, like, Act 2, when it, like, you know, made your opponent become, like, deadly ill. I'm like, okay, a disease Bankai. That's something we haven't really seen yet. But that's immediately fucking just ignored. And then we go into Django's Abyss, which is, like, an underwater area. Like, now we'll drown together. I'm like, okay, this is cool. But it doesn't do anything. You know, Lilia does not succumb to the disease. He doesn't succumb to drowning. So he just kind of ignores those two, and then we move on to the fourth one, which is a thread that cuts your head off. And I mean, okay, that's pretty cool. And I'm sure if Lilia was any other opponent, like, because Lilia was made of light, so the whole head cutting thing, the decapitation doesn't really affect him. If it was any other opponent, I'm sure he could have taken him down no problem. Well, maybe not Aizen, but yeah. Funny thing, Kubo actually hinted at that Aizen might have been able to be defeated by Shinsui's Bankai once. He did say that, you know, Shinsui might be able to do it if he went Bankai. But yeah, I mean, just a decapitation. I mean, it's really artistic and poetic because it's the whole thing with the stanzas, you know, double suicide and everything. But I just left that battle wanting more, and then we end the fight not focusing on Shunsui and his Bankai, but on Nanao's powers. And I mean, I gave the higher spot to Nanao's powers because that was more of a crux in defeating Lilia in that fight than fucking Shunsui's Bankai was. I mean, the most coolest thing we got out of that was we got to see Kata and Kyokatsu in the both two spirit forms that were from the Zanpakuto arc in the anime. That was pretty cool, but that was like the best part. Everything else, the actual Bankai itself was just eh. Number 9. The Creation of the Va-Welt from chapter 628. I think I pronounced it right that time, but probably not. W's and V's are weird in German. Alright guys, let's do a little bit of a pop quiz session here. Okay, you have just absorbed God. Alright, I know this is very relatable. You've just absorbed God. What's the first thing you do? Other than, you know, create a giant unlimited supply of iced tea for you to drink at a waterfall, but that's just me. No, what you do is you raise up your fucking castle, and that's exactly what Yuha does. After he stabs the freaking Soul King right in the chest after no fucks are given, he absorbs his essence, starts bubbling this weird viscous black shit all over him, and then he just kind of like has all these eyes and just like oh, this is what it is to feel absolute excess power, and just, you know, with one freaking raise of his finger, summons up an entire Quincy city where the Soul Palace was, and it's freaking awesome because he not only destroys the Cocoon Palace, but he connects all the different palaces, I never got an answer to that, together to form a 5-pointed star, which is the symbol of the Quincy's. Pretty much just taking the entire Soul Society, I mean the holy ground of the Soul Reapers, and just doing this. Like, ha! Take that! I own your asses now! Ice City, bitches! And then, if it doesn't even end there, when everyone arrives at the Va-Welt to try to attack Yuha, he then, like, even sticks it in deeper by raising up his new castle with the old Silburn on top of it. Like this giant freaking mountain they have to traverse just to get to where Yuha is. So, I mean, Yuha's a boss. He knows how to set the stage, because this is going to be, it has been, but this is going to be the final stage for all the battles at the end of the series. Like, this is where all the main fights are going to take place, with the final battle probably taking place atop the castle or the Silburn. That's probably where the final battles are going to take place. But you gotta hand it to Yuha. Guy's a boss. He knows how to set a stage.
Like a mouse.
Number 8. The Revealing of Pernight Punkjoss from chapter 637. You know, Pernight, it's been a mystery, but not for really that long. I mean, we found out Pernight even existed in chapter 599, which is, you know, around, you know, fall of 2014, and we found out what it was in, like, the summer of this year, so it wasn't, like, this long-running mystery, like, what the fuck it is for, like, many years, like the Zero Squad. So, when it came to be the revelation of what Pernight really was, everybody was pretty much just like, a giant hand? Seriously, Kubo? You're... Okay. I guess that makes sense, sorta, kinda. Let's do that. I mean, I'm sure, like, aside from a few people, I'm sure nobody freaking saw that coming. I was debunking on Lizard Monster myself, but, you know, that's just me. Okay, yeah, so Pernight Punkjoss, Stern Ritter C, is the left arm of the Soul King, and its whole crux, the whole idea behind it is its evolution, you know? Like, the right arm represents stillness or maintenance of, I guess, the status quo, and then you have the left arm, which is constantly evolving and changing. This is known because at the beginning of the fight between Mayuri and Pernight, it was just like, it could only like emit these weird growls or grumbles, and then it started slowly increasing its vocabulary, which I think was a pretty cool aspect to that fight in general, that it kept gaining intelligence up to the point where the intelligence possibly rivaled Mayuri. It went from like a gibbering idiot with no speech skills to on the level of a mad scientist. So that was pretty cool for that fight. I won't stand here and say it's not completely, you know, it's certainly weird. It's very weird. It's particularly odd when you consider that Kubo loves to cut everybody's arms off in this series, and like Pernight is the embodiment of all the arms that got destroyed in the Bleach series. Like, the arms are coming back for revenge in physical form. But I mean, considering if it was like revealed as the left arm out of nowhere, I would be a little bit surprised, but we knew about the hands of the Soul King. We knew there was a right arm that Ukitake revealed, also not very far before Pernight was revealed. So we knew about the right hand. Having a left arm or left hand, that wouldn't really be surprising to anyone. That's just obviously. And now we know about Gerard being the heart of the Soul King. So I don't know if we're just going on like... I mean, people have been saying like we're going to go on like a hunt for all the Soul King's body parts now, but I'm like... You know, we're almost at the end of the series. Do we really have time to do, like, this shit with, like, the Millennium items and going around gathering them all up, you know? Like, the left leg and the right leg and the heart and the cock and the brain. Or maybe Grimmy was the brain of the Soul King. Maybe that's one thing. Yeah, let's go with that. But, yeah, let's all give Pernight a hand for making the number 8 spot on this list. And also, check out the link below to learn how to make an explosive device to send to my house for making that awful pun. Don't worry, guys, it's the last one. It's the very last one. I'm not going to make a single hand pun in 2016. It's not going to happen, all right? Number 7. The fight between Askin and Grimmjow from chapter 630. Okay, so some of you might be thinking, really? You're putting this on this list? Because this wasn't really much of a fight. This entire fight consisted of Grimmjow jumping Askin, that sounded wrong, unexpectedly, and then Askin just running from Grimmjow the entire fight, and then Askin turning around, throwing the gift ball at Grimmjow, and immediately dropping Grimmjow. So there wasn't really much of a fight, as in, like, the exchange of blows, but as we know from Askin right now, not really how the guy fights. I mean, he has pretty OP power. What I love about this fight in particular, though, is just how chill Askin is. We know about Grimmjow. We know he's badass, and we know he's been training for so long, and he seems to have some other, like, new abilities on him. He can make that, like, those claws with his hands. That was kind of cool. And despite all of this, and all we know about Grimmjow, you have that one scene right here, and this is the reason I put it at number 7, honestly. That one scene where Askin's just, he thinks he escaped from Grimmjow, he's just chilling out on a rooftop, takes out a fucking thermos, and just starts drinking a latte. I mean, my God, is that not awesome? That Askin is such a fucking boss. I mean, I said Yuho was the boss. No, Askin is the boss.
Like a mouse.
Being chased by Grimmjow Jaggerjack, a spot at number 6, had this epic final battle with Ichigo, all bloody and crap, and Askin's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna take a coffee break. It's cool, it's not a problem. I'm Askin Naklevar, what are you gonna do, bitches? Ha, yeah, number 6. The revealing of Nanao's Zanpakuto from chapter 651. Alright, so as I said earlier on this list, the whole fight between Lilia and Shunsui using his Bankai, that really didn't play a big deal into finishing off Lilia. Shunsui did have a major part in the fight, but it was mostly through his backstory between Nanao's mother and his brother, and their marriage, and we got to learn a lot about that, and Nanao's backstory, which was pretty good, and then the revealing of her Zanpakuto, the hidden Zanpakuto of the Issei family, Shinken Hakyoken, which... yeah, it's massively convenient that the Issei family just happens to have a sword that can fight against godly creatures made of, like, some light matter, and Lilia just happens to be a godlike creature that's made of this light matter. That's massively Deus Ex Machina the fuck out of Kubo, but hey, it was a cool scene. I mean, we can all admit that. I mean, yeah, there was that one part where Nanao was, like, shaking, and she had to kind of have Shunsui just kind of hold her there and steady her and give her the confidence she needs, and it was a very nice scene between them. I agree with you on that. The design of Shinken Hakyoken itself is a pretty cool blade. It's just where it came from. I mean, maybe if it was exposited a little bit that this existed before this fight, it might be higher up on this list for me, because that's the only thing that's ruining it, is the fact that it was just out of nowhere. That Nanao's lack of a Zanpakuto wasn't even mentioned before this. Like, we didn't even know she didn't have one. You know, we just assumed that it was one of those, like, if you reach lieutenant, you have to at least have a Zanpakuto. I mean, at least, right, woman? But, no, that's not the case, and it just kind of came out of nowhere. But the backstory was nice, touching upon Shunsui and his brother, and, you know, Nanao's mother. That was cool, and the design of Shinken Hakyoken itself deserves the 6th spot on this list. Number 5. Nemu's backstory from chapter 641. You know, I'm really surprised that while making this list, I put Pernight's revealing on here, and I also put Nemu's backstory, and I was debating whether or not to put, like, Mayori's fight with Pernight on here, because Mayori's my favorite captain, but after I sat back and thought about it, he's like, you know what? I mean, this fight was, you know, it did feature Mayori. I mean, he's the one that did most of the work, for the most part, up until Nemu got into the fray, and we did get a little bit more, you know, development from his character, that scene with Cial and everything, but I think at the end of the day, this fight was more of a focus on Nemu. Because we found out probably the most of anything we ever found out about her character, as in we knew like nothing about her up to this point. Nemu showed up as just this creation of Mayuri that was basically just his slave that he would just beat on mercilessly whenever she even did, like whenever she would even speak out of turn, he would like kick her the fucking teeth in. And later on, when in the Wakamundo arc, it seemed like he was treating her a little bit better, like he wasn't as abusive with her. But we didn't really find out anything beyond that until this arc, when we found out her backstory and exactly what Mayuri means to her and she means to Mayuri, and finally what she really means in terms of like Mayuri's creation. It makes the transition from just, this is a creation I was really proud of, to this is beyond pride, this is my daughter, this is something I might have actually come to love. In Mayuri's way. I mean, Mayuri's not the kind of person that's going to be like, you know what, Nemu, I really loved you this whole time. He's not going to do that. But it's clear that he, like, when she died, that he was really freaking heartbroken, at least in a little bit. You know, even if he tried to hide it, it was there. We could tell. And you could also write it off like he only cared about Nemu because, oh, this is my one chance to beat Uehara at his own game. But I think there's more to it than that. I like the way her backstory was explained, you know, with Akon and everything, and you know, explaining exactly the nature of the Nemuri project. Once again, it probably would have been higher on the list if we had anything setting this up beforehand. I mean, we even found out like she was the 7th one, like Nemuri Nanago, you know, and we didn't even know that had happened beforehand. We just assumed that, you know, up to this point, Mayuri just created her in the lab one day. Like, oh, I created this modified soul mixed with a Gikongon, and there we go, we have Nemu. You know, there was more to it than that, you know, I wish would have been at least hinted at earlier, you know, but, you know, what are you gonna do? And also, yeah, there was that full-page spread with Nemu and her huge tits. Yeah, okay, that's great. Moving on. Number 4. Basby and Hashwolf's backstory from chapters 631 to 634. Alright, so despite the fact that the Sternritter are the main antagonists of this arc, the main group that the Shinigami have to fight against, we don't really know anything about them individually. The only one up to this point we really got any backstories from was Asnot, a little bit. He was like this dying cancer patient, and then a little bit from Lloyd and Royd when they were born and they were identical, and that's like the yourself power. But beyond those 2 examples, I guess 3 examples because Lloyd and Royd were brothers, we didn't really get anything about, you know, who they were, what they're doing, how they got their powers, you know, what was their life like before, you know, Yuha arrived, how'd they get recruited, none of that shit. And I really hope we get something of a turn back the pendulum arc before this series over. I'm not saying explaining about everything about the Sternritters, but just, you know, pick a few of them out and then give us some backstories for that. Kind of like what you did with Basby and Hashwolf. This was the first legitimate flashback arc we had focusing on Sternritters. It actually shows us a little bit of, like, beyond just what I figured that the Sternritters were just like regular Quincy living in present day that Yuha came across. You know, it's very clear that whatever has been going on has been going on for hundreds of years, because this backstory takes place in like the medieval times, you know, and we have, you know, Jugo and Basby meeting up as kids, and Jugo is somebody that's naturally just not gifted at any Quincy techniques, apparently, when he's still a Quincy, but whereas Basby is like this protege. He knows all these new techniques and he tries to teach Jugo, and they have a mutual goal in killing Yuha, and they train for years and years, and you can feel the dedication there. But when they finally get their chance, they realize that, oh, this shit ain't gonna happen. Yuha is just way too freaking strong. And then you have that great moment where Hashwolf decides to side with Yuha and just kind of disregards Basby and goes off with Yuha. And then you gotta feel for him. I mean, Basby was kind of a hothead this entire time, but after learning about this backstory, I mean, can you really blame him? I mean, he was, like, abandoned by, you know, Hashwolf as a kid, this guy that, like, his only friend that, like, we have to raise up and, like, fight against Yuha, and he's like, no, we're not gonna fight him, I'm gonna join him. And be like, what the fuck, dude? And then, you know, the final battle here, which was very emotional, leading to the death of Basby, or Bowser Black, and Hashwolf apparently having no fucks given, didn't even, you know, cry or lament his fallen friend. I hope we get more with Hashwolf this year. I say that at the beginning of every year, apparently. I guess I should just count my chickens, because we probably got the most from Hashwolf this year than we did from any other previous, you know, years. So, all right, we got a little bit of development on Hashwolf. That's cool. Also, Volume 70 with his awesome hair. So there's that. Number 3. Uketake using the Mimihage from chapter 616. Alright, going back a little bit more earlier into the year here, this was revealing the whole issue with the Kamekake that we got hinted at earlier in 2014, where Uketake apparently made some sort of contract with some god, and now this contract comes into fruition in chapter 616, where he reveals that he has the right arm of the Soul King dwelling inside of him, and he uses its power to try to stabilize the Soul King after Yuha stabs it. This is the first time we get any indication of like the limbs of the Soul King being relevant. And, you know, I think Kubo really fucked up here in terms of revealing this shit, because, you know, now it's like a big deal. He keeps mentioning parts of the Soul King, like with Pernight and Gerard, and this is becoming a big deal now. And I'm thinking, like, if it was this big of a deal, I think you should have hinted at this earlier. This is all this list is Kubo, I love these things, but you should have done this shit earlier. Give us a hint or something that this shit exists. You know, it's like waiting, like it's like a 20-chapter book, and you don't wait until chapter 18 to reveal this critical plot point that should have been in, like, chapter 6, okay? I'm just like, alright, whatever. Okay, so the Mimihage, which is the representation of stillness or maintaining the status quo, it maintains the Soul King very briefly before Yuha just kind of rips that shit off, absorbs its power, turns them into little chibi Mimihage, Yuha minions, and descends them upon the Soul Society, which are then immediately destroyed by Aizen, and there's never referenced after that. So I'm guessing that since right after he absorbed the Mimihage, Yuha also absorbed the Soul King, it just kind of became one entity. So maybe that'll be a plot element. Like, if Yuha absorbs all the different parts of the Soul King, then he'll truly become like the true god or something like that, I guess. I don't know. But as for Uketake, is he dead? Is he unconscious? I don't know. Does he even have his own, you know, consciousness anymore? Because I guess the consciousness of the Mimihage kind of overrid his. I don't know. But that's probably going to be the only moment that Uketake has done. That was like his most defining moment in this entire arc, and all it really was taking out his sword, shouting a chant, and then having black shit erupt from his eyes and mouth. And that was it. That's the contributions Uketake made in this arc. Okay, good job, buddy. Number 2. The Return of Grimmjow Jaggerjack and Neliel 2 Odishvank from chapter 625. Chapter 625 was a big chapter. We found out a lot of shit. We had not only the return of Yukio and Riruka, two Fullbringers from the previous arc that we didn't really kind of care about, but it was cool to see them back again. But we also had the reveal of Grimmjow and Neliel after a big long absence. I know we saw Nell at the beginning of the arc in her child form, but we saw her reappear in her adult form, which is something I always love. Nell, I'll be honest with you, this is at number 2 mostly because of Nell. I mean, I love Grimmjow. Grimmjow's great, but he's not one of my favorite characters. I'm sorry. I mean, he does look pretty cool in this new scene. I mean, not much changed about him, but he has that new belt buckle, and I want that belt buckle. That belt buckle's fucking cool. But I'm kind of interested why Kubo didn't show Grimmjow earlier than this, because it's not like, you know, it wasn't like it was like a big reveal, like he was like changed a little bit, like his hair was different or his mask changed, because he kept hiding his face. We knew it was him in chapter 500 with Uruhara. It's like the only other person it could be. And then in 518, he was talking with Uruhara, and they were doing that hologram transmission. We see Grimmjow in the background with his face obscured. I'm like, what's the point? We know it's him. He's talking like Grimmjow. It looks like Grimmjow from the waist down. We know it's Grimmjow. But yeah, I guess he just wanted to have a really epic moment. And I will admit, it was epic when we saw him, you know, stepping out of the Garganta and everything, and that was really cool. But not really much for me to add to this, because Grimmjow got taken out by Askin for a nice dinner. They had a great time. But no, he also got drugged by him. And then Nell, who just kind of wandered off somewhere on the battlefield at the moment, not really sure what's up with her. She might have actually gone to assist Grimmjow. That's the only other possibility I can think of, because I can't really see her charging for the Varwelt to attack Yuha directly, so she might have just went to go assist with Grimmjow. But yeah, 625 was a big chapter. It was actually one of the most fun I've ever had reviewing a chapter. It was really fun. And I'm glad Grimmjow's back, but I'm even more glad that Neliel's back. Oh, please let me have a cool battle with her. Please, please, please. Number 1. I don't think it's any surprise what's at number 1. There's a character in this series that has long been a fan favorite. Now, he's gotten some, you know, criticisms against him, but you can't deny the fact that he is the glue that holds the Bleach series together, okay? It's a character we haven't seen in a long-ass time, but he comes back this year. at long last, we get the return of the third seed of the 4th Division, Hanataro Yamada. Kubo, you sly devil. Now, I know that he appeared very briefly earlier on in this arc, in chapter 515, when, after the initial invasion by the Vandenreich, he's in the 4th Squad barracks just kind of helping out. Kubo wanted to whet our appetites, teasing us, just like he teased Grimmjow, that he's coming back, and he's going to do some shit this time. But he appeared at the beginning of this year, in one of the best moments of this year, bar none, and that is when he was right there, coming out of the operating room with Uketake, healing Kenpachi and the other members of the 11th Division. Right there! Every single Bleach fanboy orgasmed at the sight of him. Like, yes! Yes, that's what we wanted! Hanataro doing what Hanataro does! Damn straight! But that wasn't good enough for Kubo. No, Kubo's like, you know what? I'm gonna give you more of Hanataro. So we had that scene where he actually misses the portal to the Soul Palace because he had to go take a leak. And he ended up going to the bathroom with Kenpachi, and they came out there, and Kenpachi knew right then and there, holy shit, I'm not even 1/1,000,000th of the man that Hanataro Yamada is. That's the real reason Kenpachi got taken out by Pernight. His spirit was just crushed when he saw Hanataro. It's massive, So that's why Kenpachi's out of this fight. But Hanataro's still in it. And we haven't seen him in a while, but we had that one scene where he was talking to Nemu, and that, once again, bringing it on. But he's doing stuff. He's hiding in the shadows, waiting to pop out. Dollars to donuts. He's going to be the one to take out Gerard. I mean, think about it. Byakuya gets taken out, Renji gets taken out, Rukia gets taken out, Shinji gets taken out, Momo gets taken out, Gerard's stomping around like he's the king of the world. Hanataro shows up, takes out his Zanpakuto, Hisagomaru, and he's like, you fucking giant motherfucker. You don't do this to my friends. And he releases Hisagomaru, and he splits that fucking giant right up in half. Perfectly, vertically, drops him. And that's how you end a fight. That's how you end a fight. Alright, well, to 2016, we await you, Hanataro Yamada.
Like a mouse.
Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this top 10 list. As always, from last year, I'm going to close you guys out by showing a memoriam of the characters that have died this past year. Now, I know there's a few of these characters that might not technically be dead yet, so I put a star by their names in the memoriam. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and leave a comment below on what your least and favorite moments were from this year of Bleach, and what do you expect in the next year, 2016. So, thanks to you guys for watching, thanks for a great year, see you in the next one, signing out. Okay, you still here? Okay, you're the ones that stayed because you care. Alright. Now, Aizen's back! Yes! Yes, yes, yes! Aizen! #1! Aizen! #1! Aizen! Sosuke Aizen! Yeah, okay, so Aizen came back. That's the big one, alright? So, unlike Grimmjow and Neliel, this wasn't, like, teased while seeing seeing Aizen in the background or anything, okay? The only moment we got that even hinted Aizen was, gonna be prominent in this arc was when Yuha went to go see him in the prison underneath the 1st Division, but that was done verbally. It's not like we saw a flashback with Yuha meeting Aizen, and we saw Aizen in the shadows like Kubo was cock-teasing us. No. It was just offhandedly, secondhandly mentioned by Yuha to Yamamoto. And that's good. That means, like, okay, Aizen is prominent, he's still around, he's probably going to play a picture in this arc, but it's not like, here's Aizen, we see him, but now we're not going to actually see what he does for another 150 chapters. No. Alright, so Aizen shows up, and Kubo milked those chapters. He really did. He milked them all the fuck day. He, had chapter 616 at the end of that, stating, Sosuke Aizen. And then in chapter 617 at the very end, you have his face emerging, and then it wasn't until 618 that they actually started having a conversation, Shunsui and Aizen. I'm pumped for Aizen in this next arc. I'm a little confused what the freaking point was about bringing him out of the fucking prison when they don't even bring him to the Soul Palace. It's like, yeah, we're gonna wheel you out, Aizen, in the Soul Society, which is pretty much wrecked at this point, and all the people worth the fuck that to fight at this point are up there in the Soul Palace. We're gonna leave you down here just on the off chance that some light creature descends upon the Seirete and tries to destroy it. Then you can maybe do something. And I guess that's what we're gonna see. We're gonna see Aizen getting up off that chair finally and taking on. Actually, you know what? He doesn't even have to get off that chair. He can just fight against Lille in the chair. Fuck, that chair could fight against Lille on its own. But Aizen realizes that he's what the fans want. So he's going to do some charismatic shit, and he's going to, while still strapped to that epic chair, he is going to defeat Lilia. Isn't that messed up, though? I mean, we always make fun of the chair, but that chair is single-handedly the only thing in this entire series which was able to resist Aizen's power. The only thing! I mean, I guess Ichigo, but even Ichigo got a little scuff from Aizen's Fragger technique. He still got his arm burned. That chair has been unscathed since the moment of its freaking creation. The Soul King itself descended upon this epic throne for Aizen to sit upon. I want a chapter cover with that chair. I want one. I want the volume, like, when Aizen does something else epic, I want, like, volume 77 to be just the chair. Not Aizen, just the chair. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for watching. This is the real end of the video. I know, I'm a troll, blah, blah, blah. You know, I do what I do. Also, next few days, I'm going to be making a video about the my favorite moments to edit, actually, in my actual reviews, my favorite moments there. So I might only do a top 5 for that, though, to make that more, you know, slimmed down. But I thank you guys for watching anyway. This will be Tekking101, Troll King 101, signing out. Later, guys.